Good morning, YouTube. This is going to constitute my long-awaited walk around. I've had a lot of questions from fellow CTX owners about my bike, and mostly they want to know about some of the accessories I've done, some of the ones I haven't but are on the bike, and the exhaust. Everybody's been asking about the exhaust, and I promised this to the CTX forum folks a while back, so hang in and I'll get to my favorite walk around location, and we'll go ahead and do a little walk around of the bike. Well, good morning, YouTube, and we're finally going to do the long-awaited walk around of my Honda CTX. So let's go ahead and get it started. We have a 2014 Honda CTX700. As opposed to its namesake, it actually has, I think it's a 670, not a 700. The engine itself is a nearly horizontal parallel twin. You see that normally the motor is upright on these parallel twins, and this one is almost laying down flat. This is a key element of this bike because this motor is so low, it lowers the center of gravity on this bike and the center of balance to the point that it makes the bike feel much lighter than it is when you're handling it. You know, for just busting around town as a commuter or hop on the highway and do some miles. It does fairly good for itself. It's backed up by a 6-speed transmission, and it comes out to a single exhaust. Now that's all the stock information. Most of this information can be looked up. When this bike was new, brand new, the previous owner, I got it with 1,000 miles on it. So when this bike was brand new, the previous owner had put the 19-inch windscreen on it that Honda makes as a replacement for the little 2-inch windscreen. That just didn't cut it. It caused me lots of buffeting issues. I'll refer to one of my videos where I talk about the new windshield. I now have this C. Bailey's 24-inch windscreen, which is perfect for my height. And as you can see from some of my other videos, when I'm riding behind it, it looks really fat towards the top and almost straight up and down, but that's just the bend of the lens. If you see here, it wraps all the way around to the edges of the fairing. The previous owner upgraded the headlight. I found the ballast inside the fairing when I had it off to install the sub harness and the windshield and everything. The next thing, the phone holder. And as you can see here, it's not your typical spring-loaded. This is a Kuryakyn style, which you get to sort of screw down and clamp onto your phone. I've had people that I've known with those other types that you hit a really good series of bumps and it's going to fly off. So I went with the Kuryakyn deal, and it bolts on. Everything squeezes down pretty tight, so that's perfect. I put little spot mirrors on, hard saddlebag panniers. The bike didn't originally come with that from the factory, so they put on these handguards, these panniers, this luggage rack, and this backrest were all on the bike when I got it, so I didn't add any of those. Another thing that the previous owner did that I am appreciative of was they added these floorboards. I'm gonna go ahead and get a close look at those because I get a lot of questions about them. These floorboards appear to be the Kuryakyn floorboards, and they do a good job of breaking away. Very comfortable platform to rest your foot on. I'll get a close look at the linkage too. That's another question that pops up. And they're fantastic. As most of you know, I'm going to be using this bike sort of like a mini touring bike. And one of the things I was going to need was an outlet for my GPS and my phone and everything else. And this is what I installed here. I installed the sub harness inside the bike, and then ran this so that this is a switched outlet. And it's got this rubber cap to cover it for when it rains. I right now have a dual USB plug in there, and it keeps my phone charged, especially because I'll be Bluetoothing to my helmet, and that's kind of important. And next but not least, we have the pipe. So this is a custom pipe. I just washed the bike yesterday and I've already splashed through a couple of puddles. As you can see, this is not the factory pipe. One of the things that struck me about this bike, and I will go ahead and refer to a couple other videos real quick for you, but one of the things that bothered me about the bike was how quiet it was. I couldn't hear it when I needed to shift. I just I was having to look for the small tachometer that's on the display up here, and that was just unsatisfactory. And I'll give you a little sample of what that was like. So as you can see, the display here has a tachometer that runs across the top. And yeah, I was paying attention. I could not, the bike is so smooth, I couldn't tell if I was at 3,000 RPM or 5,500 RPM. I mean, a lot of times I just couldn't. And that could just be me. I'll admit, I'm kind of picky about it, and this was easily the quietest bike I've ever had. Changing that was important to me. What I did was, I had a good friend of mine named Mike Prude home. Went and visited him. I'd already taken the pipe off at home, the factory pipe, and it sounded fantastic like it was without that pipe on there. And if I could have run it with just that open header pipe, I'm told that the catalytic converter is mounted in the header pipe. So really, all the back pressure and everything that the engine gets is really based off of that header pipe. So that being the case, you can pretty much run mufflerless and not have an issue with it. We took the muffler and we chopped the ends off and found all the different baffled chambers inside the muffler. One by one we busted these chambers and turnarounds out. And we ended up putting it back together again, well, we, mostly him, so that it still had the appearance of the stock pipe without the baffling inside of it, the baffled chambers. So he welded it back together, and you could hear the motor a little bit over top of it. And I'll go ahead and cut away to a video I did demonstrating what the idle note sounded like with and without that modified muffler on. Needless to say, I was a little disappointed. Apparently, even running a long tube all the way out to the end of the pipe just wasn't cutting it. That whole empty tube was really still swallowing a lot of the sound. So I pulled the pipe off again, and this time when I went and talked with Mike at Concept Fabrication in Sierra Vista, Arizona, we were thinking of alternatives, doing a custom pipe. So he welded up this little S pipe, and for those of you that know welding, that is some sweet welding. And he found this large diesel tip. Normally that's the chrome tip that goes on top of a diesel stack, and it has this nice rolled piece there. I didn't mean chrome, it's actually stainless, polished stainless. He went ahead and fabricated this bracket for that. So what we did was essentially we took that S pipe and ran it through the back side of that tip, closed it in so it protruded inside the exhaust tip by a couple of inches, and then mounted the whole thing to the bike. And it was loud. It was louder than just running the open pipe, because the sound had an opportunity to sort of bounce around inside that huge hollow tube and then come out of the huge aperture at the end. It was loud. People in traffic could definitely hear you. I could definitely hear when to shift the bike. But when I got out on the highways, it really just kind of droned too much, even with my earplugs in. So it was time to readdress it again, and I asked Micah to create a baffle for me. So this is the same pipe, but instead what he did was he added a longer piece of pipe to the inside, and it's removable. You can see it's sitting there on a couple of tabs. It's been welded to it. Underneath the pipe here, you can see there's a couple of nuts there. If you take those off, you can pull that pipe out and go back to the super loud. But now this one it gives you a really good exhaust note, not quite as raw as what the open pipe sounded like, and not quite as droning as what the modified pipe without that extended baffle on there. So that's it. That's what I did to the exhaust, and I really like it. I'll go ahead and give you a sample now of what the bike sounded like before I did anything to the exhaust. And a sample from this morning riding over here, what it sounded like. and to go ahead and try and troubleshoot, go ahead and respond to any questions that might pop up for it. No, I have not noticed an issue with it. The bike seems to be riding the same. It really doesn't snarl or backfire or pop or anything like that. It runs just as smooth as it always has, as it did before I changed the exhaust. It gets good gas mileage. I'm a fairly heavy guy sitting on this bike. Oh, that reminds me, there was some other modifications. The original owner put a lift shackle on the bottom. So underneath here, you can see just past the chain, which I might add is brilliantly clean right now because I cleaned it yesterday and re-oiled everything. My pre-touring ride maintenance. But he put a longer shackle on there, that dog bone shackle that goes down there. So that gave the bike, I think, maybe another inch lift, which I'm guessing because he was a taller person or she was a taller person, and that's the way they wanted it. But when they did that, they also added a slightly longer side stand. So that has created an issue for me because I know that you can get one of the center stands from the NC700. I think it has to be the 700S or something like that. That will fit on this bike, and I'd love to have a center stand. But at any rate, that's it. 2014 Honda CTX 700. So there was my walk around, and I hope you folks enjoyed that. I hope that answered a lot of questions. A lot of people wanted to know what was up with the exhaust and what all had been done to it. Gotten a few questions about the Kuryakyn Floorboards. And I gotten a few questions about the gotten a few questions about the phone holder. So anyway, I hope you folks enjoyed the walk around of the Honda CTX, and thanks a lot for watching. I wonder if it's going to be one of their Victories or one of their BMW. It's got someone in handcuffs.